Chat is blowing up. Blowing. Oh, there we go. Blowing the F up. What's up, everybody? Okay. Warner, Wick. Is it Werner? Werner? We have a soda pop called Werner's in the States, Midwestern thing. That's the name of one book, by the way, not three books. Manias, Panics, and Crashes. We'll get started here in a few minutes. Johnny, Joey, MC, K, of course. Golshi, loud and clear. Okay, good. Thank you for that. If you want me to look at anything, let me know. Hopefully this works on Twitter. I'm watching it right now, and that seems to be fine. It's getting angry at me for the bit rate, but it is what it is. What's up, Dylan? Did you guys and Gills see that story about the extra moon we're gonna have for a couple days? This is real, by the way. There's gonna be an asteroid that's gonna be orbiting. It's September 29th, I think. I don't know if we're gonna be able to see it from Earth, but yeah, we're gonna have two moons for a couple days. Pretty wild. No, I don't think it's gonna affect the tides, and looks like it's too small to see. But if you have a telescope, you should be able to see it. Looking forward to some crazy pictures. All it takes is like a $5,000 move, and all of a sudden we've got people in chat again. It's crazy. Who knew? Who knew? Shouldn't be cutting out. Hopefully not. We haven't started yet. It's not 2 o'clock. Looks like the YouTube side is fine. I'm just muting my audio, so yeah, it's cutting off the audio. Yeah, for Bruno, for a lot of these charts, there's a mix of Adam and Eve and inverted head and shoulders. On a lot of alts, there's inverted head and shoulders. So it kind of comes down to personal preference. I'm assuming, I'm not just calling you out and saying this, but I'm assuming most people pointing to those things are saying, like, I'm already down 30%. I hope this is a bottom, versus is this a good time to enter a trade type situation. Well, it's good to hear, Bruno. We usually it's the other way around. That's why I say that. All right, we're back. We're here. We're now in there, out there to figure out the right. It's confusing because a little inside baseball to get this to work on everything. It's a little bit of a job, but it is Thursday. I got the hodl hat on. I hope everybody heldled. I, there's just so many bears out there. I don't get it. I don't get it. September, it's a bit of a September surprise. I'll give you that. I wasn't expecting anything super crazy, and this still could roll over, obviously. But we did get our 50 basis point cut. There were people who didn't think we should cut. There were people who didn't think it should have been a 50. I think we talked about this last stream, but I just said it should be 50 because there's no meeting the month before this month and the month after this month. And if they were already perceived as being behind a couple months ago based on unemployment, based on inflation, I don't know. It's weird to see people. It's like people are wishing for a recession, which is fine if that's your narrative. Like if you think we must burn the forest down to fix the problems, I'm not going to disagree with you there, but that's a lot of pain for a lot of people. What's up, Dad? Brian is indeed still alive. He's around. He's just super busy. IRL. That's all. So September, certainly so far, 19 days in, doing very, very well, thanks to the 50 basis point cut we had. Obviously, that hasn't hurt price. We're still in this range. We're still in this gross chop. We may make a higher high. There were people saying, this isn't the low. There's going to be a lower low. It's easier to just see what happens than try to predict what you think may happen and just wait for the ride. So if this is, just making sure the stream is correct. Is the YouTube like way behind? Not sure if there's a delay or not. I just saw something on the corner of my eye that looks like I'm on the other screen. Anyway, there might be a little bit of a delay. But there were people saying, we gotta make a lower low. This isn't it. We're gonna go to 40, whatever. We haven't done that yet. It's still September. A lot can happen, but this obviously looks way better than it has looked. And once we bust 65, if we make a high there, we're good to go. And like I said, Sunday, and the week before that, I did a video on the wedge. I rewatched that video, and I was just like nodding my head the whole time, because what else is there to really consider? Each of these highs, should we break them, are just further confirmations that this is the new trend. This is the new trend. So we're not there yet. It's early, but this looks really good. And we can measure this. We can say we think it's going to go here based on the fibs, take the high, take a conservative low, take the wick low, whatever. Like, all of the measurements are in the hundreds, in the 90s. So I don't think there's any reason to do anything other than buy down here. But that's me. That's just me. Cloud looks good. It is trying to flip bullish on the daily. We may get a bullish flip in a couple days if we stay at this level. The cloud is still bearish. The TK cross is still bearish. This should be lagging. It's always lagging. It needs confirmation. That's part of the process here. We can go to the 2-day, and like I said, on 3-day, we'll go to the 3-day. One of the videos this week, I was talking about how if it's a choppy mess, you can just go up a time frame and things start to look a little bit clearer. We still don't have a bullish TK cross, but we've held above the cloud. Use anything you want. Use the 1050, use the 5200, use the 200 week moving average. We can put on the, fix this, we'll make it the 140 and 1400. That's the 20 week and 200 week. We're also above the 20 week here. So things are looking really good. As awful as this looked from 64 to 54, it's a new day. It's a new day. So this looks really, really good. And of course, alts are doing very well today because they are an amplification of Bitcoin's moves. They are beta. So if Bitcoin is up 5%, alts should be up at least 10. At least. If your alt is not up at least 10, then you're doing something wrong. Because you ideally want 2x. It's basically 2x leverage built in. Now some of these are like 4x. This is say. This thing is up a ton. It's up a ton, and it still looks like on the chart hasn't really moved, hasn't done anything. So I've got people asking me, like FTM or something, FET is up 50% since August. And yes, you can always try to pick a low, but that's, in my experience, not what you want to be doing. Most of the time you want to wait for confirmation of the trend, wait for confirmation with the chart pattern, with trend metrics, something. Because down here, on August 5th, was this the carry trade unwind? Down here, you're in the abyss. And by the way, this was potentially a bear flag here that didn't break down, but that's what it looked like. Am I going to take a long off this? No, never. Exactly never. So for me, that's just not how I trade. But yeah, you could trade like that. You could say, I've been saying this all week too for alts. I think I said it last week. Look at any chart that has established a low. You can take a long off that with the lower low being a stop loss. Easy. Easy. I don't know how they're going to move. I don't know how they're going to necessarily react. But you're going to have this tailwind off of BTC, which realistically hasn't really done much of anything yet. This has been an impressive move from 54, but in the grand scheme of things, we haven't even started. This is just starting. So a lot of these moves can get very absurd into Q4. And this doesn't have to move 5% every day. It's just once the direction is set, this has been down and chop. Once that changes, once we switch to, okay, now we're actually trending, yeah, alts could go wild. Alts could go absolutely wild. But so far so good. I think it's a little too early to celebrate that we're like in the clear. Until we start breaking and holding 65, I would love to see this break down and see where this ends up. If this can break down and hold 62, 60, that would be great. You've also got a case for this this head and shoulders thing. I don't think it really measures differently. Again, it measures somewhere up here. It's going to be a good problem to have when we're deciding, okay, do I close at 87, 91, or 110, right? Like that's a good problem to have. So I think we can wait on that, but you can always make some ideas and suggestions and say, okay, if we measure it from that, we get that. If we measure it from here, we get this. If we measure it using the entire highs, lows, everything, we get a different level, you know, and then you can spread out your asks if you want, stuff like that. But that's definitely a good problem to have. We haven't even broken out yet. we're still in this, right? So yes, that's something to look forward to. These are levels. Any leveraged positions opened here, not trading advice, just something I would be doing. Any leveraged positions opened down here, I would be letting go of up until this zone and either rotating into just spot or cash, depending on how overbought this looks. But again, we're not even started yet. There's even a case for this like tiny W we have down here, and you'll see this pattern on a lot of stuff that in the legacy land right now. MSTR, some of the miners have this. Wolf has this. This hasn't even broken out yet. So there's a lot of possibilities here. None of them are bearish. It's just, yeah, we have tons of potential upside over the course of the next quarter. I would love to see, I would absolutely love, this is ETF flows. I would love to see like a 500 million ETF flow day today. Based on price action, it might be that high. We'll see. I don't want to get too excited, but to see the flows come back consistently would be massive. To see the February, March type flows where we see just day over day of 200, 300, whatever, right? It doesn't have to be crazy. Doesn't have to be crazy, but it's the consistency that we just haven't had, obviously, since March, right? It's been back and forth, back and forth. Let me catch up with chat. I gotta make sure no one's trying to chat on Twitter. They might be. Doesn't look like it. The Twitter streaming is just horrible. It's so hard to figure out what to do as a user. All right. Yeah, we'll get to miners for sure. Can we speculate about a macro top price in time? If we look at, so the short answer is yes, we can kind of guess. If we look at, where do I have it? I have it here, I think. We can say historically, when has Bitcoin topped? We can say relative to halving, when has Bitcoin topped? We can use a model like Power Law Corridor to help us with that. with the price component, so the timing component being post-halving, the price component being power law corridor. So post-halving would put us into between March and September next year. Price-wise, it's 300s, 350. It sounds insane, but that is a possibility. This is just power law corridor on TradingView. But currently we're not even above the midline of this thing. Once this thing breaks out, that's when we go bonkers historically. If we are even remotely close to any way we've reacted previously, this could get really, really wild to the upside. But in between, there will be periods where we can trade around stuff on leverage, right? So we have this, which realistically is like 90 to 100. Let's just say ballpark, that's probably where it's going to end up if it breaks out. So you're probably going to see a lot of take profit type activity up there. Kind of like how we saw this pit stop at during the ETFs. We saw this pit stop. We saw this like mini speed bump. So I would expect that type of stuff throughout the year, throughout next year, if this really gets cooking. It doesn't always have to go up. Just keep that in mind. Obviously, it is always going to depend on how it looks, but the fibs are legit. The fibs are not going to lie to you and just give you baseline expectations of where we think price could go each move higher. They're usually correct. They're usually correct. So that's why even this fib, like it's 100K, right? It just is what it is. That's the math behind it because of the depth of this pattern, and it's black and white. So we'll see what happens, but chart looks really, really good. When am I going to stream with Brian? I say to him, I'm like, I'm open anytime you want to record, let me know. He's just busy. Not sure how the miners are going to perform. The miners are tough because, you know, it's like the gold miners. Like, is it GDX? Like, this is gold miners. And if we add gold to this, just as an example, if we go 1 year, 5 years, like they aren't doing much better in the near term. And over the long term, gold's just doing better. Now, the gold miners don't hold gold that I know of. I don't know much about gold miners, but I'm assuming they don't hold gold in their treasury per se, like Bitcoin miners do. So that would be a wild card for the Bitcoin miners. But the other issue with the Bitcoin miners is they make less and less each halving, BTC wise. They rely on price action to make up the difference. It's a zero-sum game, and it's just cutthroat. It's ruthless. So this chart doesn't have to be WGMI, but a mining ETF is like, this doesn't look like anything. It maybe has this like range bound chop. If you like trading ranges, this chart is for you. It has that W thing down here. Maybe this is an inverted head and shoulders eventually into October. But it's not like a screaming buy. If we turn on the cloud, this doesn't really look like anything on the daily. Some of these individually certainly look better. Cores is at an all-time high. This one looks great because it's got AI data center stuff going on with it. Even Wolf, like, yeah, it's up a lot today, but it just doesn't really look like anything. I don't know. Maybe we're just too bearish miners, but what are you gonna do with this? What are you gonna do with this? I just don't see a great setup here at the moment. On Wolf, which is the second strongest after Cores, Clean Spark, yeah, this could be an inverted head and shoulders into Q4, but trend-wise, it's still bearish. This, it just doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. IREN, same thing, just like flat. The mining people, I gotta say this carefully, the retail mining traders get very excited because they just assume, oh, Bitcoin's going to 100, 300, whatever, so miners have to go to infinity, and they play this like beta amplification altcoin game. And it's the same rationale that people use when they're trading alts. They're like, oh, this thing can easily go up 300%. It's like, yeah, it could, but you should also probably pay attention to just the most important thing, which is BTC. So I wouldn't get too lost in the sauce here on the miners. They really haven't done amazingly well consistently enough for me to be confident that, yeah, they're gonna do great. Like Marathon, what is this? This is nothing. This is garbage. Like, yes, just like CleanSpark, this could do something into Q4, whatever, but we're just not there. We're not there right now. Riot, same thing. Bitfarms also just looks junky. Cypher looks horrible. This looks awful. BTBT, sideways chop. There's just nothing here. So maybe like alts, miners need a consistently bullish BTC for me to like them more, because I don't know what this is. It's all just huge. It's back to this WGMI chart. It's just this huge choppy range that is super volatile. And let's be honest, you're better off trading MSTR. You're better off trading spot BTC. Even Coin has traded worse than the miners have. Coin is like in the CleanSpark camp. So I guess if you're bullish alts, you like Coin a little bit more, but even this chart doesn't look great. It just doesn't. So Bitcoin's where it's at still. Maybe when dominance breaks down, when total 2 breaks out, when retail traders come back to Coinbase, I don't know. I don't think their custody business is necessarily going to be able to maintain the revenue it has because of competition. So that's going to be a tough one. MSTR, unlike everything I just showed you, at the very least, it's been flat sideways. It's got this Adam and Eve thing. Maybe this morphs into a inverted head and shoulders. Maybe it doesn't. But it looks way better than CleanSpark. All of the miners, except Cores, looks better than Coinbase. And it trades as 2x BTC. So it's just hard. When you stack everything up against MSTR, it's hard not to like this chart. As much as I don't like MSTR, it looks great. It looks great. All right, what else we got? When will the cloud flip if we don't dump? The cloud should flip within the next 2 or 3 days, I'd imagine. 173K cycle top is the gold fractal. Yeah, let's talk about gold, because gold, where's she at? Gold continues to look just stupid good. Now it's pretty choppy, like intraday, intra-week, but This thing has held this parabola. And it's something to watch to make sure it doesn't break down. But this looks great. This looks amazing, you know? It's got two things working for it. It's got this inverted head and shoulders that it broke out of. And it's also got the decade, the monster of all monster cup and handles. It just keeps printing bullish chart patterns. Even down here, like even this thing, whatever this ended up being, head and shoulders variant. The issue with gold is the duration of time it takes for this thing to play out. It just typically takes a very, very long time. So like the gold target is maybe 4,000 based on the measured move. Like, again, that sounds insane, but that's technicals for you, baby. That's the measured move of this target, of this pattern. And as long as it's printing bullish patterns, why not? Why not? But it has gotten a little parabolic recently, but it looks okay. It looks good. What's up, Ray? Somebody was asking about Rune. So there are a ton of alts. A ton. Sol not really being one of them. But we'll talk about Sol for a second. Sol I don't really care about until it's above 165. I've said that for a couple weeks now. Realistically, it's irrelevant until it's above 200, because what you don't want to do is assume that this is just going to break out and then you're sitting in this infinite universe of multiverses of 10,000 years of chop. That is not why you're trading alts, is my guess. Okay, now you can be bullish Sol all you want, but the reality is, since March, it's gone nowhere. This may be the low. It may never go below 100 again. That's not the point. The point is, it's got zero momentum. It's just sideways. It hasn't done anything. So I would certainly want it at least back above 160. Otherwise, why, right? It's already moved. It's already moved 1,000 million trillion %. It's up, what is this? It's still up 500% since November last year. So like what? We just expect continuous moves, 500% moves? I don't think that's reality. Like gold, though, it has this potential of this huge cup and handle. So yeah, it's worth paying attention to. It's worth acknowledging that this could be bullish, but this thing doesn't complete the pattern, or at least try to, until it's above 200 again. So if there are other alts and you're an alt person that are moving more, why trade Sol? Why trade ETH? This chart looks still god awful. It may, I don't know, falling wedge down here. I don't even know. There's nothing. That's the problem with this chart. It was kind of the problem with this chart up here. There's just kind of nothing that you can grab onto with both hands and say, yeah, this looks great. The last time that happened was Q4 2023 into Q1 2024. So what do you want? It's just not doing anything. It just isn't. It's looked horrible against everything else. Back to what I was going to say about alts that aren't Sol and ETH. There are a lot of these that have this cup and handle thing, or sorry, inverted head and shoulders, triple bottom. Yeah, why not, right? Why not? I'd rather trade this over ETH, over Sol. It looks good. There's tons of charts that look like this. Tons. FTM already broke out of its triple bottom. whatever, inverted head and shoulders. It's above the daily cloud. It's getting a full cloud twist. It's at least got momentum. It's got something on its side. And then there's other versions of this, like TIA, where it's like a lesser, it's the previous move on FTM. You know, this is what you want TIA to look like, obviously. So then you just stack these up and you say, okay, TIA's breaking out, FET's starting to break out, FTM already broke out. Maybe if I was an FTM, I rotate to the other two. I keep some FTM because it still looks relatively bullish, you know, stuff like that. And then you've got things like Doge, AVAX. A lot of the layer ones are in this falling wedge environment where they look less impressive than some of this other stuff. And, you know, you just rate them accordingly and say, this might break out, it might not. If it goes lower, I'm out. That's if you even want to trade alts right now. I don't think most people really care. Too many people care. Maybe that's the problem. Too many people care about alts. SUI, very strong. Trend-wise, since the 11th, it's done well. What else is there to say? It's done well. Target wise, again, it had like this like gross looking something here. Like how do we even measure that? Maybe we go this to this and we say basically all-time highs, 215. Certainly a possibility. It certainly looks better than most everything right now, for sure. For sure. All right, back to what someone was asking me about Rune. Rune, I think, had that, yeah, like TIA triple bottom. Yeah, it looks fine, right? It has something you can trade. It's got a pattern. We're not just guessing. Absolutely. Target wise, you just take the fibs. You can conservative or not. Target 6 to 8. I don't know. Like these targets are all ridiculous because they've been downtrending for so long. The targets were equally ridiculous on the way down, by the way. The head and shoulders targets, like if we go to AVAX. If we go to AVAX and we measure this, this thing, that happened. It hit the zone. That's the zone. Okay, so now what we're seeing potentially is the opposite of that for a lot of this, a lot of these alts, which is just bullish reversal, right? That's kind of it. So if you really like alts, I would just stack them all up and say, okay, which one of these looks like it might move versus others? Which ones already have moved? I don't know realistically how much more we're going to see in BTC this month, but yeah, we're starting to turn the corner a little bit, definitely. Have I done a video using fibs? I have. The fibs I use aren't really fibs. They're more like a measurement. The only fib here is the 1618. But in the options of the fib tool, you can, where is it? You can select which levels you want. I turn off the trend line. I make sure I'm using log fibs, values on the right, labels on the right, no background, one color. It's just measuring. I use this for depth, basically, depth of chart patterns. And then this gives you the zone of expected move. So that's, for me, where the fib comes in handy. I know a lot of people use like 886 and a bunch of other stuff. I don't bother. I like simplicity. It's good enough for me. ETH BTC. You do? You do? Asks me about ETH BTC. What a mess. Can I delete this yet? I think I can, right? I think I can. Similar to what, I forget who was asking me about CleanSpark. Most of the time when people ask me this question, I hope that it's because they haven't entered a trade yet. And I hope it's because they are not holding this. They've not held on to this. Because nothing says this has to bounce. Is it oversold? Sure. But it is obviously still in a bear trend. Obviously. Use any metric you want. Use any trend metric you want. Like all the alts we just talked about. You at least want to see, like TIA. TIA is a great, is and was a great punching bag. Okay. But even this thing spent months downward consolidating. Okay. So to sit here and for me to say, man, I think this is the bottom of ETH BTC just doesn't make any sense to me. It'll show you the bottom and it'll probably take weeks to months to get there. So I don't think there's a rush. There's no rush. This chart looks horrifically awful. And you still have people selling every day because I see it. I see the on-chain tweets. ETFs are not buying. It's been a one-way street. ETH outflows since this thing launched. So there's some things that you could wait to see. Strength from institutionals, trend metrics flipping. We don't have any of that here. So why guess? I mean, this thing, what is the measured move on this? So we just take the measured move on like this thing, whatever this was. I don't even know. Just the measured move on this. We're in the wheelhouse. So like ideally this doesn't go much lower, but to say that it's bottomed is way too early. Way too early. Do I think we break 100K this cycle? Easily we should break 100K, yes. Is parallel quarter of the stock to flow of this cycle? I don't think so. It wasn't last cycle and it wasn't the cycle before that. The thing is, it's been around since at least 2016, if not earlier. HC Berger was one of the guys that I saw first talk about it. He had a Medium post many years ago. Maybe this was 2016. And every once in a while I'd go back and I'd try to recreate it and I couldn't. So it's good to see so many people using it now because the data is so readily available. 10-day moving average after halving years. What does that mean, Joey? 10-day moving average after halving years. I don't know what that means. Moving up to a quad witching. Why not close the margin at the end of the cycle? Yeah, as Benny says, don't get lost in the sauce. Why not close the margin at the end of the cycle? I mean, yeah, that's the dream. The dream is the bottom is in, we go straight to infinity and beyond at 100x leverage, right? That's the dream. The reality is that's not typically what we see. That's not typically what we see. Typically what we see is 20 to 30% drawdowns. Intracycle. We may see extended sideways chop like we have. That's possible. So you got to account for that. So if you want to hold through, like this is a great example, this ETF stuff, right? If you wanted to, you could have held through all this and just say, you know, I know where we're going. just like a lot of people held through all this. You could say, I know where we're going, I don't care. But that gets pretty expensive on leverage, especially with funding. It gets pretty expensive. So that's where the timing component comes in. But yeah, you could hold. I held this was my BitX position. My BitX position was opened here, and I'd have to double check, but it was closed somewhere up here. It was a 2x. In hindsight, super smart, but that's what you want to do with leverage. You just want to use it when you're super sure where we're going, and we're using trailing stop losses on the way up. That's it. Have we entered an early bull? Well, I'll tell you this, 54 or 64 is a lot better than 54, but we've been here before where we've tried to make a higher high and failed. It looks better than it has in a while. Rates are down. We're not in a recession yet. It's interesting too that the Trump odds have gone way down for him as president, and the market hasn't cared. We've gone higher anyway. That just tells me liquidity and rates much more important than the Trump stuff at this point in time. Thanks for the grade A content. You're welcome. I don't know how to say your name. Triple O. Call him Triple O. Trueflation. Yeah, I still see people saying they're sure of it. They're sure that inflation is going to come roaring back. And I don't have to guess. You just use a real-time indicator. You go from there. If inflation is above 3%, we will know on the way there based on the real-time indicator. It's that simple. So, yeah. Are we going to see inflation? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. So far, so good. We're a day in. This might go negative, you know? Just because the Fed brought rates down doesn't mean the direction doesn't keep going. So a few questions on legacy, SPY, and NASDAQ. My issue with legacy up here is we've hit the old targets. You know, it's like talking about that BTC 100K conversation. We are in the target of the previous mega pattern. So to expect anything much more than this doesn't really make too much sense to me. This was a 25% move. Can this just keep trending and keep going? Yeah, like we've seen that before. We've seen that throughout history. But again, back to the Bitcoin at 100K example, probably need consolidation somewhere. So the huge like top-down view is, yeah, we're overbought. I mean, look at the weekly cloud. Look at the TK lines here on the weekly cloud. They are very spread apart. So we went up super fast. We haven't really pulled back much. We haven't really held the pullback. Nothing says we have to. It's just, it's a relative value conversation. So yeah, is there a cup and handle up here that measures higher? Yeah, but would I rather trade this cup and handle thing or BTC? I'd rather trade BTC. So it looks fine. It's obviously bullish. It's at all-time highs. Is it overbought? Absolutely, but doesn't mean it can't keep going. The Qs, same thing. Tech had the pattern, had the breakout, reached the level, what else do you want? It has a little bit, as far as the target's concerned, it has a little bit left in the tank. Sure. This is still another 18% potentially. Like, that's not nothing. But it already broke out of the easy trade. You know, the easy trade was here. It's the same with SMH. If we look at SMH, it hit the target. It's in the zone. It was deep in the zone. Is this going to keep going? I mean, anything's possible, but I think chop is a lot more likely. So this goes back to relative value. Like, would I rather trade NVIDIA or BTC? This came up today. NVIDIA or BTC? To me, even if this breaks out, the upside is a lot more limited than BTC is. It's the same argument with IGV. This is the software ETF. IGV versus SMH. I mean, it's all just relative value. You need a narrative, you need a catalyst, you need something that is more than just like, okay, this has to keep going or this has to break out. But this is a 50% move, whereas SMH looks like it's done to me for now. So it's just risk reward. Like, your downside on IGV is like 80 price wise. Your downside on SMH, if this ends up being, let me just find a place to pull this up. Yeah, if this ends up being a head and shoulders, which you really don't want because that means there's issues broadly. But if this ends up being a head and shoulders, the downside is pretty considerable. So just from a risk reward perspective and a relative value perspective, BTC makes sense. Things that aren't semis make sense. Things that aren't the index make sense because the index is mostly NVIDIA. The index is mostly Mag 7. The single bullish chart on Mag 7 was Meta. This thing looks insane. Has looked insane. It's been consolidating basically as long as BTC has. And it just hit a new all-time high today. It looks really good. From a risk reward perspective, it's got 15% probably left in it eventually. So if I had to pick one, it would be Meta. Meta looks phenomenal. Looks really good. It has looked really good. I forget the question. Oh, SPY and Qs. So I like individual names better than the big indexes, or I like sectors that haven't broken out yet over SPY, NASDAQ. You've seen the Real Vision charts showing global liquidity breaking out. Yeah, we can look at global liquidity. This might be hard to see on stream. So global liquidity is the green line. The green line, let me try to pull it up on this. It might be cleaner. Is it this one? Kind of. You can kind of see it there. So if we draw a line here, global liquidity at like 93 trillion, it's definitely up. Definitely up. Let me just check this real quick, sorry. Okay. For some reason, the stream preview for me is lagging, so I'm like, wait a minute, is this working? Anyway, yes, global liquidity broke out. Dollars down, rates down. Just more reasons to be bullish. U.S. liquidity in the white, kind of struggling there. But yeah, it makes sense that we're breaking out. Makes sense that we're breaking out. Sol BTC topped question mark? We can take a look. I think what I had said was it's got this head and shoulders versus ascending triangle, and it comes back to Solana breaking 200 or not. When does Solana break 200? The next best time to get bullish on this is when we break the horizontal 0027. Until then, it just doesn't really make much sense. So it's relative value game. It's momentum game, trend game. Just waiting on that one. Why are you guys asking about alts? They're all correlated. Yeah, I agree. They're all correlated. But we are seeing some dislocations, dispersion, or what's it called? Anti-correlation? I don't know. Some of this stuff is doing better than other stuff, that's for sure. If we get 4,000 in gold, Bitcoin easily going to 333. I agree. What does 4,000 gold market cap look like? At above 160. Pradeep wants me to fully plan out a trade for him, which we can do. We can do that. I like 5x or less leverage. That's the first thing off the bat for me. Again, not financial advice. If you're taking any leverage long here, you have to realize, again, you're in chop. You are not trending. Say it to yourself 5 times, okay? This is your stop loss. I would add at anything above 150. I would add anything above 163. And then I would want my final add at 189. So let's map this out. As a hypothetical, stop loss, add, and percentage-wise, you could split this however you want. Some people would say, man, this is crazy. You're supposed to buy lows and sell highs. Why are you buying highs, Josh? Why are you buying the high, Josh? Well, you want confirmation. It's that simple. Again, I don't want to sit in this thing assuming it's going to move when it hasn't since March. The levels are clear. The levels are very clear. Just like MSTR. We can pull up these 4 charts. If I had to pick one today, just based on position relative to the cloud or whatever, MSTR top right panel looks much better to me than Sol. And you can see there's not much of a difference, but it's at least trying to maybe break out here. So if I had to pick one, it'd be MSTR. Coin versus CleanSpark. Both of these look like junk to me. Put those in the back burner. Those need more time. Yeah, this could be the bottom. These could move up 50% tomorrow, but man, they do not look good today. They look terrible today. Awful, especially on a relative basis. So back to the Sol chart. If you want to open something here with a stop loss at lows, that's reasonable. But again, it's not trending. I prefer trading trending markets. So you could say percentage-wise, I don't know, 10% now, 25, 25, 40 or something. Something like that. Just so that you have something, like everything is bullish, everything's getting bullish. Open 10%. Okay, stop loss doesn't change, and then we're adding, that's 50%. Adding, that's 75%, right? 40, 50, yeah. And then we're adding the last little bit up here. If I had to take a trade, if you told me I was getting tortured until I gave you a trade setup. This is what I would take. I would not actually do this because, again, we are not. I don't think we're trending on Solana yet. Yeah, ETH-BTC I talked about. It still looks terrible. End of story. Not really much to say, honestly. Dominance. Let me pull that up. I think I have it here. Yeah. Dominance looks great. What is there to say? Nothing really to say. Still bullish. Again, people assume that great traders guess at the tops, they guess at the bottoms, they make this huge hero trade. Oh man, I'm gonna top tick dominance at 59.9 and I'm gonna go all in alts. That's not really how it works. You're just looking for biases in the market. Is there anything here that's obvious? Yeah. We're trending up. We're trending higher. Is there any rising wedge here? Not really. Is there any overbought signals here that we can look at? Can I put RSI on dominance? Why not? What does RSI look like? RSI looks fine. It's not overbought. There's no divergence. Dominance looks great. Dominance looks really, really good. It consolidated for 2 years, broke out, and is slowly continuing to move higher. Do I know where this is going? I don't really care because it's going to tell you when it's done. It's going to be pretty obvious. At least it should be. It's just not there yet. Just not there yet. What are we looking for? Head and shoulders, rising wedge, some crazy wick. We don't have any of that. This looks great. Looks like Bitcoin's the place to be. Stellar. We can look at Stellar, sure. Stellar and Ripple both, they're kind of just stuck in the mud, especially Ripple. This is back to the Solana problem. Like, clearly more people care about Solana than Ripple or Stellar, which is already on a relative value basis. It's a warning signal for Stellar. Like, hey, is Stellar going to break out? Odds are probably not. Odds are it probably needs everything else to be turbo bullish for people to look to Stellar and say, hey, what about this one? So it's not in like the mainstream lexicon if we pull this up against itself, just as an example. That's fine. So this is Stellar Soul, a chart that perhaps no one in the world has ever looked at until now. This is a world first. You probably know what I'm going to say. It is trying to bottom. It's trying to bottom. But that was a heck of a ride down. It was a heck of a ride down. You definitely want a higher eye on this somewhere first. So as a relative value, which I just, made up, I'm just pulling this stuff out of the air, but it doesn't quite look like it's time for Stellar just yet. Just reading chat, everyone's insulting each other. Altcoiners are ruthless. Unloaded all my ETH looking to buy back when BTC inevitably leveled off. Yeah, you can also watch, I talk about this all the time, as does many other people, Total 2 against Bitcoin. Most of this is ETH. But if ETH is overly bearish, the benefit to looking at this, if ETH is overly bearish, the other stuff will pull this up on a relative value basis. But it hasn't. It's, you know, it looks worse than ETH BTC. It's even lower, I think, percentage-wise than ETH BTC. So into 2025, like we could see this into 2025. We might see something that looks like this into 2025. Come on, TradingView. Maybe something like this. This assumes that alts keep up with BTC here, which I don't think is going to happen. And then this assumes that alts outperform into mid 2025, which I also don't think is going to happen. But look at previously. Look at 2019 through 2021. Do you want to sit through this if you're trading alts? I don't. I would much rather, again, tell me when this is about to break out. Then I'll care about it. But we're not even close to that. We're not even close to that on this. Just awful. Looks awful. Roblox. There we go. Roblox. Damn it. I said it again. I said it wrong again. There we go. Yeah, that chart still looks phenomenal. I would much rather trade this than alts, I'll tell you that much. It's sitting at highs, it's at the top of the range. This might make another like scoop-de-whoop lower, but it looks great. I'm holding some Roblox myself. So this is not what alts look like. And notice this took 2.5 years to bottom. So if dominance looked like this, okay, let's do this. If dominance looked like this, Bitcoin dominance, I'd be super bearish BTC on a relative value basis, but it doesn't. If alts look like this, I'd be super bullish alts, but they don't. Just reading chat. Have I ever backtested CPI FOMC price action the following day? On the following day, I haven't. I haven't. Someone's asking about hymns. Sure. Didn't I get wrecked? Didn't I get wrecked on the Ozempic stuff? Because I don't know, the compounding thing or the generic stuff or something, right? Wasn't there something with that? I can't remember exactly what happened there, but so trend-wise, it's kind of a mess. It's below the cloud on the daily. It's got this thing you've got to watch out for. It also has an ultra low time frame, inverted head and shoulders. It's kind of all over the place. But like, look, here's the reality. You put this stuff against Bitcoin and it just goes to show you, like, does anything really matter? Does anything else really matter? Really? I mean, let's be honest here. The most egregious one is NVIDIA, obviously, because it's done so well. But this too has these cycles where this looks as bullish as dominance looks. This still looks very bullish NVIDIA, just to be clear. But it's one of the only things that actually has been bullish against BTC, at least in a big way. It's similar to dominance. It had this triple bottom, broke out of the cloud. So assuming that this is going to roll over is like assuming dominance is going to roll over at 60. So it's one of the few that looks okay against Bitcoin, as in it may keep going. but most things just don't even stack up. Don't come close. This is TLT. TLT against BTC very briefly looked decent, but now it's trend bearish again. And we can do this with anything. We can keep going. What else? Roblox? Roblox, damn it. Roblox looks okay. But if we do these relative value pair trades, it's hard for BTC to lose most of the time. Velo? Velo, is that on Kraken? It is not. I think I have it on my watch list, don't I? Yeah, it's got, we talked about this with a bunch of coins. It's trying to triple bottom. It's trying to break this diagonal resistance. Yeah, looks okay. Looks okay. I think it's too early for alt season, hence dominance being so strong, hence Sol being weak, ETH being weak. If anything, this is like, if we go others BTC, I bet this looks okay. This is everything outside of the top 10. Hold on, others, crypto cap. So here, you're also trying to get this bottoming thing. Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great, but it could be a relative bottom. Certainly not trend bullish though. Mark, thanks for the dono. If we hit 65K by end of day, do you think BTC will dump over the weekend? I wouldn't think of it like that. It's not, it's a dimmer switch, not a light switch, you know? I would assume weakness is the modus operandi. I would assume that these lows or these highs aren't going to hold. I would assume that this is going to take the rest of September to play out. So you just plan accordingly. You say, okay, I'm a little bit more bullish than I was yesterday. What am I going to do today? I'm going to buy a little bit more. Am I going all in? I'm not going all in, but yeah, I bought some more today. That's it. Like, so I wouldn't, it's not this like all or nothing situation. Not trading advice. Just telling you what I'm doing. To look at Monero. No, I talked about it on the Wednesday video. Monero hasn't really done anything for a long time. It looks great, but to expect this thing to move, it's like gold. It just doesn't move fast. Does that mean it can't move fast? No, but yeah, it looks okay. It looks okay. How does it look against BTC? Doesn't look great. Certainly not bullish against BTC. So if this isn't smacking me in the face with bullishness, it's not for me. It's just not for me. Some legacy, the thumbnails are going to be just absolutely all over the place. But that's okay, not thumbnails, timestamps. Nike. Nike had a bunch of terrible, awful news, right? Pulled back a bunch. Super gross looking chart. Does anybody think this is bullish? Not that that's, you didn't ask me that, but no. I do not like this chart. It kind of reminds me of Disney. Disney had this up, down, sideways consolidation, tried to break out, pulled all the way back. And just like Square, maybe this moves 2025, but like here, like, yeah, you can always guess and you can say, okay, this is a trade. There's my stop loss. I'm just going to hold this thing and see what happens. You could do that. I did that with platinum and palladium. Where were we at? Yeah, I held this until we broke the low and then I got out. Was it the right thing to do? I think so. Price-wise, it has pulled back up. This chart looks good again. But it's, that's part of the game. So it looks better today than it did in June. I'll give you that. Square's still in a tight range. Just like Solana, like, does this have momentum? Is it trending? Is it ready to break out? The answer to all those questions is no. So do I want to sit in this today? No, me personally, I'd rather buy this at 78 than 68. Like the Roblox thing. Like, where do I like Roblox? I like it deep into the consolidation, making highs. We're not there yet on Square, so, but it looks fine. Like, it's not making lows. It's just unimpressively doing a bunch of nothing. Amazon also, like Microsoft, is this a diamond top? Is this a head and shoulders? I don't think it's less of a head and shoulders than Microsoft, but like, what are you gonna do with this? Is this maybe eventually a cup and handle? Maybe. Looks better than Solana. What does that chart look like? World first. Here we go. Amazon over Solana. Amazon over Solana kind of favors Amazon a little bit. Trend-wise, no, but it does. It's trying to bottom. It's trying to bottom down there. And this is the other issue with Solana being up 500% in 3 months, is like Nvidia, like anything else, on a relative value basis, everything else starts to get a little bit more attractive. And then people, what do? They rotate into other stuff. It's the same reason alts get bullish when BTC gets bullish. People take profit, they rotate into other stuff. Should the bears F off and eat slop? says Joe Rogan. Maybe they should. What will bonk be when Sol is... Oh, man. I don't know. I just really hope that people trading memes aren't trading their entire portfolio. And it's not like literally rich or wrecked every single day of their life when they wake up. Even though that's probably exactly what they're doing. Bonk is in a massive mess of a range. I have nothing to say about it. But certainly, again, there's always a trade setup that you can take. You can say, I like this level. We're eventually going to be bullish. There's my stop loss. Why not? Why not? Not that that's what you asked me, but like me personally, I like bonk all the way up here. That's another 100% from here. That's where I like bonk, because then I'm pretty sure the momentum is back. But here it is, man, I don't know. Would you ever structure a trade short ETH, long BTC? Yes. You just buy BTC and don't touch ETH, and that's basically a long, a long ETH short BTC. But no, you could do that. I wouldn't do that now because most of this move, like realistically, not that this is what you're asking, but are you going to try to short this when it's already down 60% in 2 years, 3 years? Probably not the best idea, but it certainly doesn't look bullish. Doesn't look bullish. But yeah, you could short ETH, long BTC. That's the thing you could do. Can you show Coinbase index in your perspective? I don't know what that means. Low liquidity dev note. Yeah, Joey, I don't know how to answer that one. He's calling out the altcoin people that have held things that are down significantly. What's up, Dave? Viewers have doubled since last week. Doubled, I tell you. The biggest of coins has been here every week for the past 6 months. He's first in line for whatever we're giving out. Amara MSTR. Yeah, I like having fun with random pairs. And really, you're just trying to avoid any massive landmines, you know. Is there anything that looks super obvious here? To me, it looks like Marathon is going kablooey against MSTR. That's what it looks like to me. It's making lows. It's got this, it kind of looks like ETH BTC, you know? But it's got this huge wedge thing. It doesn't look great. Does not look great. DYM. What the heck is this? Yeah, it's got the chart. Risk reward is defined. Why not? There's your stop loss. Use the fib tool, measure the range. Your target's 350. Sure. HDB. I'm assuming this is okay. Legacy, yeah. Yeah. It's got that Morgan Stanley type chart. This thing. What are we doing up here? A lot of the bigger banks had this like multi-year consolidation. Some of them broke out, some of them didn't. So HDB just looks like it hasn't broken out yet, but it looks okay. It's a mess, but anything above 70, it's probably good to go. BN Brookfield Corporation. Trend-wise, it's great. Maybe a little overbought. But yeah, maybe eventually a cup and handle too. A little overbought though. ICE. So we looked at this one last month, a couple months ago, I guess. It had this inverted head and shoulders at all-time highs. That thing just exploded higher. I would be careful here if we turn on fractals. So this is a good like lesson for Williams fractals. This is what we want BTC to look like. So each fractal, when it appears, you move your trailing stop loss. If you're trading this as a breakout, you've held this entire time. This has not once told you to get out. Even though this candle up here looks kind of scary, it's still saying you're good to go until you make a lower low. But if we could get something like this for BTC to 100, easy. Easy. Why would you people get so tribal about everything. Flip mode says, why would you invest directly in tax evasion? How's VC funding looking? We can pull it up. It hasn't really, so we can go to DeFi Llama. It's here somewhere. Raises. Pretty flat. It's not zero. The floor is higher than the floor in 2020. But to get to like FTX levels of raises again is going to really take something. Hopefully we never see that again because of ZERP. But funding, VC funding is still basically flat. Someone's asking about page 56 of CoinMarketCap. I always just think about that when people ask me some random alt. It's just like, where do you hear about these alts? I don't frequent those circles, I guess. Verizon, so overbought, pulling back. RSI definitely got overbought as well. Cloud likes it at 272. It's kind of an ugly chart, honestly. I don't know. Doesn't look great up here. Using Williams fractals. Not quite a stop loss yet, but doesn't look pretty. Sorry, Hood, yeah. A couple of people have asked me about Hood. Hood also had that Head and Shoulders potential. It's me talking about lows versus highs. Hood had this thing that didn't break down, so that's good. Not only that, but it broke what would have been a potential shoulder higher, so that's good. Now it's getting rejected at these highs. It looks fine. I still have some Hood from when I bought it down here in the Roth. Not much, but yeah, looks okay. Looks okay. Again, like what looks better to me, Hood or BTC? I still like BTC. And you can look at all the exchanges. You can go Coin. What does this thing look like? Ugh. This is Coin BTC. Just chop. Gonna look at gold and briefly go through your thought process and how I would have traded it. Sure. Gold. 21 to 22. So I would have traded BTC because I did. 21 to 22. So you're saying here. Well, if we look at it on the daily was a mess. So this would have told me just avoid this because there's no trend. But if I had to do something, you always like to see extremes. You always like to see months of down followed by bottom followed by cloud breakout. So those are always things you can look for. But what a nasty looking chart in 21 and 2022. The weekly really gave you nothing. Maybe a breakout in February 2022, but all of 2021 was just nothing, you know? So in the cloud, it's telling you don't do anything. That's why when you can pick up on any pattern of a decent duration, that's like, you know, not people just seeing things that are real, then it's worth tracking that. In not just me, but many people talked about this pattern throughout 2023, early 2024. So in 2022, there just really wasn't anything to do, you know? And you do kind of have to look at gold on the weekly because it moves so slow. That's where most of the signals are going to be. That's why even up here, this looks kind of overbought, you know, but it looks overbought. It looks like it's hitting the level that you'd expect it to hit based on the previous pattern. So it's tough to say like, yeah, this looks so bullish. It's going to keep going. Even if we take this mini pattern here, it's past the expectations there. So I would love to see a reconsolidation in here for gold, but that would likely mean like a multi-year reconsolidation. So I don't know. As far as BTC analogy, for now, on this period for gold, I don't really think there is one, right? Other than, well, like you always want the cloud to be on your side. You always want a reason to be long. And on the daily, we've had reasons to be long a few times. They've been wrong, but that was a long attempt. This looked pretty good. Switching the cloud. That was another breakout attempt. This is going to be another breakout attempt. We'll see if we can hold this. But this is the fourth time that we've tried to break out. So for me, I'd rather just say, okay, again, macro non-chart stuff is bullish, should be bullish. I'm going to just keep trying. That's me. How much BTC ETH SOL do I hold? So I hold 0 ETH, 0 SOL right now. The only ETH I have is for like transaction fees. He's been here for wait a minute. Biggest of Coins has been here for 6 months and he hasn't subscribed. Are you kidding me? You've just been called out, bro. Yeah, we talked about FET. It looks fine. The other thing is, I don't know if people are asking me about FET because I was talking about it, or people are trading. I don't know what's going on, but when it becomes like the crowded trade, which FTM might be at this point, it's probably worth rotating into something else. But yeah, FTM could keep going. Or sorry, FET could keep going, and I think Ocean. Where's it at? There it was. Ocean, similar chart. This looks better to me than FET even. Super clean. Will is now a member. Thanks, Will. HDB BN Ice from Lynn Alden. Yeah, if you've been holding BN and Ice, you've been doing great, right? Those are at all-time highs. HDB also looks good. Biggest of Coins says he is subbed. Oh, he probably meant member. Whatever. Yeah, like Hood looks fine. Again, what do I always want to see? I always want to see stuff above the cloud, bullish TK cross. I love seeing bearish patterns get negated, what would the target be on like this move here? That's the high, that's the low. We measure to 35. But it looks fine. It looks fine. Nothing else to say, really. But you can see that there was an attempt. There was an attempt, just like SMH, there's an attempt to break down. SUI, I brought it up for a second. It looks fine. Like, is it a trade for me here? I think it's maybe a bit late for me. But I think we talked about this last week, didn't we? But this is kind of an example of what you want to always see. A very obvious trend that bottomed out and flipped. Like, I say that like it's easy. Just take a look at the chart. But most of the time you don't get this. It's not this clean. It broke out of the downward channel, went sideways for a little while, broke up. Okay, like AVAX or some of these others. AVAX is still trying to bottom. Does it mean it has to break out? No, but SUI looks fine. It looks fine. I don't have anything like specific to say on that. It kind of just depends on where you got in. If you got in lower time frames on this, there was a weird head and shoulders attempt inverted, but it looks fine. Looks okay. Spot at 0.8. Yeah, 0.8's good. It's trending. It probably will pull back at some point, but you know, as long as it's, for me, as long as it's above the cloud, like this could happen again. You don't know. So what do? We watch the Williams fractals. At least I like to. We can go to like the 12 hour for alts. These are going to be impossible to see on the stream, but there's a fractal at 101, so that would be my trailing stop loss. If you want to be even more aggressive, you can go down a time frame further. Same thing. So 101 would be the level. I guess we can pull this up on here. See it a little bit better. This could, if we kind of squint, we could say maybe this thing is something bottomy, and the target would basically be all-time high retest, I think. Yeah. So you're either watching the trailing stop losses here, currently at 101, or you've got a target in mind, 180 plus. Yeah, I think it's a hodl for now, for sure. Loved your video about leverage too. What do you think about long-dated calls on IBIT versus alts? I just laugh because I'm terrible at options. Long-dated calls versus alts. Thanks for the membership gifts. Let's go. Long-dated calls versus alts. I don't know. That's tough. That's tough. BTC, the obvious answer should be BTC because BTC is potentially just starting to break out. But the problem is the timing component of the calls. But I guess the assumption is if IBIT, if BTC is bullish, then it shouldn't matter. So my preference would be the long dated calls, but options are tough. IBIT, if we turn on the cloud, IBIT is above the daily cloud. Now the daily cloud isn't bullish yet, but I'd rather be here than at 32 on IBIT. For futures look really good. Futures look really good. We're not quite, we're on like the cusp of, for me, like having some confirmation beyond what we're already seeing that this is the real deal, you know? So we're getting there. Like it's crazy to say that because of how bullish we've been, but we're still like, we're just kind of recovering the previous chop, you know? One issue I had in 2018, we dial this back. Let's go to BTC. This issue I had in 2018, instead of watching June to November, I was watching like the whole thing, and I was under the assumption that this was going to break higher, when in reality what made a lot more sense was just watching the near term action. It just like the obvious stuff. Like there's a horizontal, we're making lower highs. The obvious thing here was if we make a higher high, it's the first one we've made in what would that have been? A year at least. So that was the obvious thing to watch outside of the horizontal, obviously. But after this breakdown, after it broke down, then I was like, okay, you know, I know where this is going. It's going at least to 4,000. But so if we think about here, the most obvious near-term thing is this double bottom attempt. So that's the first thing we got to clear. Make a higher high. Can I browbeat Ledger until he agrees to the weekly open? Whenever Brian wants to record, I'm totally game. He's just busy. I like calls on anything that doesn't have volume. Yeah, the problem with the options is just there's so many ways you can get completely wrecked. It's very hard. It's just hard. Like you can be totally right about direction and price and still lose money. So I would just be careful on that. BitXBTC says Omen. The good news, this isn't bullish. So this is leverage BTC against BTC. The good news is there's obviously a channel that we're still in. So it makes the next trade easier. As bullish as everybody is here, including me, like a lot of these other charts, like this could, let me draw it a different way. This could go sideways until the election. Like it could just be this until 11/7, which would be a horrible, horrible thing to trade. Ledger still owes me a steak. He does. He does. He definitely does. Any other requests? Anything else we want to look at? Speaking of Omen, he brought up a really good chart. It was futures divided by DXY. This thing looked like a more obvious triple bottom. So we're where we want to be, you know. It just, do we see a breakout or not? Today's Thursday. Do we see anything Friday to expect more beyond what we've already seen in the near term? Might be asking a little bit too much, but at the very least, if we could just not break down, not lose it all, that would be a start, right? Like not breaking back down to 58. Let's just see if we can do that. Let's see if we can do that. Sia? Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Sia. Oh man. Again, I'm a little bit worried. How long has Haywood been holding Sia? People don't show up and think, man, let me buy this Sia coin. You know, this is somebody who's been here probably for a little bit of a while. They've probably been here a little while. It's trying to do something. So it had this, right? If we dial this back to the beginning of the year, it kind of like oil, right? Oil has this like multi week head and shoulders. So this had a bearish landmine of a pattern, plus broke the daily cloud. We can't go back and rewind the past, but if you ever see something like that again, you do not want to stick around and find out, especially after it broke the horizontal. So anyway, it's down here. It's reached the target zone, the expected breakdown level based on the measured move. There's no guarantee this thing reverses, but yeah, it looks better here than it did at 001 or whatever, right? 17 years. You've been holding Sia for 17 years. Well, God bless you. Helium, is that on Kraken? It should be. Yeah. Helium. It looks fine. The hard thing about alts is like SUI versus everything else, FET versus everything else. So this one or 2 weeks ago was outperforming everything else, right? And it's like, okay, trend-wise, it's bullish. This is what I like. Do I hold this? Or am I just like a schizophrenic maniac where I'm rotating? I don't know. That's just a question. But like, yeah, this looks okay. It's not like super impressive. But would I rather be holding this or like trading FET, you know? I'd rather be trading FET, especially if I caught the move on this. I would prefer stuff that looks pre-breakout, just because this is up 100% in a couple months when everything else was pretty bearish. Ape, I might have to go to, oh, they have Ape. Yeah, it's got that bottomy attempt fractal. Inverted head and shoulders, triple bottom stuff. Hasn't really been able to do anything historically, so that's kind of a warning sign. I think we'll leave it there. I don't think I have much else. Just trying to think. Anything else I didn't talk about? Talked about ETFs. Did we talk about the monthly returns? I can't remember. Somebody made a good point on Twitter that when September is bullish, the next 3 months have been bullish outside of 2012. If we exclude 2012, when September's bullish, which has been exactly 3 other years, the next 3 months have been bullish. What does it mean? I don't know, but we're only 19 days in. Something to think about the end of September. I do have a Discord. I don't know where to post it. I'll post it somewhere. When I end the stream, I'll post it in the chat. That's all I got for this one. Give me a like, dislike. Thanks for the donations and the memberships, all that other fun stuff. Hopefully we can hold these highs and not go all the way back to 58. It just seems like every time it's like the boy who cried wolf, you know? Every time we've been up here, we've just gotten sold off, sold off, sold off. So maybe this time, maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the one. But we still need a little bit more evidence, I think, to be clear that we are in the clear. All right. That's all I got. See you Sunday for Setup Sunday. Take care. Have a good one. Touch grass. I don't know how to shut this off.